Um, I want to start today with a scenario that I think is going to feel uncomfortably familiar to a lot of you listening.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah. So imagine this. You are working harder than you have ever worked. You're up before the sun. You are answering emails while trying to eat dinner, just pushing every boulder up every hill.
Right, doing everything by the standard definition of hustle.
Exactly. You are doing everything right, and yet you look at the P&L at the end of the month, and the line is just flat.
It is honestly the most maddening feeling in business.
It really is.
It's that sensation of running on a treadmill that's slowly increasing in incline, but you aren't actually moving forward.
Yeah, and a narrative we spin for ourselves in that moment is brutal. We immediately turn inward, right? We think, okay, if the business is stuck, then I must be the problem.
We internalize it entirely. We assume we aren't smart enough.
Or we just aren't grinding hard enough. Like if I just sent 10 more emails or stayed up another hour, the breakthrough would finally happen.
Right, we make business stagnation a character flaw. We think it's a lack of grit.
But today, we are going to challenge that instinct. Welcome to today's deep dive into business blind spots.
Glad to be here for this one.
We've got a stack of research and source material here that argues the problem is not your IQ, and it's definitely not your work ethic.
No, not at all.
It's actually a phenomenon the source material calls distortion through familiarity.
Familiarity creates distortion. It's a heavy concept, but it is the core of everything we're breaking down today.
And what does that mean, practically?
It basically means you are too close to the machinery to hear the gears grinding. The sources are adamant about this. Successful companies rarely hit plateaus because of some loud, explosive disaster.
Right.
They hit plateaus because what they call structural drift.
Drift. See, that sounds deceptive. When I think of a business failing or even just stalling out, I think of, I don't know, the stock market crashing or a warehouse fire.
A massive lawsuit. Yeah.
Exactly. Drift sounds like something you do on a lazy river on a Sunday.
And that is exactly why it kills businesses. Because it's quiet. Drift is what happens when your revenue just hovers. Maybe your marketing, which used to bring in 10 leads a week, now brings in 6.
Then 5.
Exactly. It's not a cliff, it's a slow leak. And because it's slow, and because you're busy hustling, you normalize it.
You learn to live with the leak rather than fixing the pipe.
Precisely. You unintentionally protect what's holding you back.
So our mission for this deep dive is to figure out how you can find those leaks before the pipe bursts. We're going to break down a specific framework from the text called the blind spot quadrant.
It's a fantastic tool for self-diagnosis.
It really is. And we're going to walk through a real-world case study from the source where a business owner was bleeding $8,000 a month.
Not because they were incompetent.
Right. But because of a quiet gap.
That case study is the perfect example of the more effort trap. It proves you usually don't need to do more. You need to see clearly.
Let's start right there with that more effort trap. That really resonated with me because we live in a culture that just worships the grind.
We absolutely do.
If things aren't working, the advice is always to do more. But the source material draws a really hard line between hustle and structure.
Right. When we hit that drift phase, our default setting is hustle mode. If leads are down, we say, I'll just send 50 more cold emails today.
Or I'll just work all weekend.
Exactly. We try to solve a physics problem with brute force.
Throw bodies at the wall until it breaks.
But the source makes a really critical distinction here. Plateaus are rarely effort problems. They are predictable outcomes of structural gaps.
Predictable. That implies the plateau was inevitable, which feels a bit fatalistic, honestly.
It's actually liberating if you look at it the right way. It means the stall wasn't your fault. It was just a math problem.
Okay, walk me through that.
Think about it this way. You cannot hustle your way through a structural ceiling. If your business is structurally built to handle $500,000 in revenue,
meaning your team size, your software, your processes.
Exactly, your offer structure. If it's built for $500,000, no one out of late nights will magically make it an $8 million business.
You can run faster on the treadmill, but you're still on the treadmill.
Right. You have to get off and change the machine. The data in our notes mentions that most small businesses hit this wall because they lack 3 specific things.
Those are
precise tracking of customer acquisition costs, documented client journeys, and predictive revenue modeling.
Okay, hold on. Predictive revenue modeling. That sounds like something you need a corporate finance department for.
It does sound intimidating.
Yeah, are we saying you need a Wall Street background just to avoid a blind spot?
Not at all. It just means, can you look at your pipeline today and reasonably predict what you will make in 60 days.
Oh, I see.
If the answer is, I have no idea, I just hope the phone rings, that is a structural gap. You can't fix that by working harder today. You need a system that looks into the future.
Because if you're purely reactive, you're always going to hit that ceiling.
Precisely.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like moving from hunting, where you have to kill something every single day to eat, to farming, where you planted the seeds 3 months ago.
That is a great analogy.
Let's get into the evidence, because I want to ground this for everyone listening. We teased this $8,000 blind spot earlier.
Yes, the real-world example from the text.
This story blew my mind because it's so relatable. It wasn't some massive corporation. It was a service-based business. Set the stage for us.
So this service-based client came to the strategic consultant who authored our source material, and they were completely burned out.
Totally.
They had been at the exact same monthly revenue number for nearly a year. Every single month they hit the number, but they just couldn't break past it.
And let me guess, they thought they had a marketing problem. Because that seems to be the default. I need more eyeballs.
Of course, that's the classic assumption. I need more leads, I need visibility, I need to spend thousands on Facebook ads.
Because if revenue is flat, the logic is to feed the beast more.
Right. But here's where the diagnostic got really interesting. They stopped and actually looked at the data. Traffic was steady. The leads were coming in at a healthy clip.
So the pipeline wasn't empty. People were actually knocking on the door.
Yes. The client was obsessed with visibility, but the diagnostic found quiet gaps in their process. It wasn't one giant broken thing.
It was a collection of small inefficiencies that were compounding.
Exactly.
Quiet gaps. I like that phrase. What specifically were they?
Okay, gap number one, there was no defined follow-up cadence. A lead would come in, maybe get one automated email saying thanks for inquiring, and then silence.
Just silence. If the lead didn't buy immediately, they were forgotten.
Forgotten entirely.
Which is wild because we know most sales happen on the 5th or 6th touch point. So they were basically cherry-picking the easy wins and letting everyone else drift away.
Exactly. Huge leak. Second gap, there were no tiered offers. If a potential client couldn't afford the premium flagship package, they were just told sorry.
Wow. No downsell, no light version to get them into the ecosystem.
Yeah, nothing.
So they were paying to acquire the lead, warming them up, and then just throwing them away if they weren't a whale. That is painful.
It's incredibly expensive waste. And finally, there was no structured upsell for existing clients. They landed the client, did the work, and never asked, what's next?
They did the hard, expensive work of getting the person through the door and then just left money on the table at every single step after that.
And here's the kicker. Within 60 days of just tightening those systems,
Just 60 days.
60 days, creating a 5-email follow-up sequence, making a lower-tier offer, and asking for the upsell, monthly revenue jumped by over $8,000.
And did they increase their ad spend?
Zero.
Yeah.
They didn't spend a dime more on traffic. They just fixed the bucket.
That really drives home the idea that familiarity creates distortion. If you see that leaky bucket every day for 3 years, you stop seeing the leaks. You just think, well, this is how much water the bucket holds.
Exactly. They had completely normalized the inefficiency. The client didn't need visibility. They needed clarity. They were trying to solve a conversion problem with a traffic solution.
Okay, so that is the cautionary tale, but I want to get practical now. The source material outlines a specific framework to catch these things before they cost you 6 figures.
The blind spot quadrant.
Yes. Let's walk through it. This is the tool for self-diagnosis.
If you are listening, mentally audit your business against these 4 areas as we go through them. Most founders think they have a generic business problem, but usually they have a specific problem in one of these 4 corners.
Quadrant number 1 is revenue structure. Now, is this just, are you making money? Because I think everyone assumes they have a revenue structure.
It's not just are you making money, it's how are you making money. The check here is about visibility and architecture. Is your pipeline actually visible?
Do you know where every lead is in the funnel?
Yes. And critically, like we just discussed, are there defined offer tiers? Is your pricing aligned with your positioning?
This goes right back to the case study. If you only have one thing to sell, or if your pricing is purely reactive, like making up the price based on how much you like the client, you're in trouble.
Right. The symptom to look for here is inconsistency. If your revenue looks like a roller coaster, great month, terrible month, that is a scream for help from the revenue structure quadrant.
It means you don't have a reliable engine, you just have a series of lucky breaks.
Exactly.
Okay, inconsistent revenue equals a structural problem in the pipeline. Got it. Quadrant number 2 is messaging clarity.
This is where most smart people fail.
Really? Why smart people? You'd think they would be the best at communicating.
Because of the curse of knowledge. The check here is simple but brutal. Could you describe what you do in one sentence that a 10-year-old would understand?
Oh, that is tough.
And are you selling outcomes, or are you just explaining your services?
I see this constantly in the tech space. You go to a website and it says, we leverage polymorphic data structures to optimize cloud compute. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, but do you save me money? Do you make it faster?
Spot on. That is the exact difference. The first one describes the tool. The second one describes the value.
And what's the symptom for this quadrant?
The symptom is fascinating. If your conversion feels unpredictable, like sometimes people buy immediately and sometimes they just ghost you and they have absolutely no idea why, there's almost always a messaging problem.
Because the buyer is confused.
Yes. The source notes that often the messaging feels crystal clear in the founder's head. They know the shorthand. They know the jargon.
But to the buyer, it just sounds like noise.
And a confused buyer never buys. They just leave.
So if you are getting ghosted, check your messaging. Moving on to quadrant number 3, operational systems. This sounds like the unsexy stuff that actually makes the world go round.
It is the engine room. This is where hustle goes to die and scale is born. The check here is, are your processes documented?
If you hired someone tomorrow, is there a manual for them to read, or is it all locked inside your brain?
Exactly. And the big one are metrics tracked weekly.
The source mentions a 2-week test here, right?
Yes. Can the business function for 2 weeks without the founder?
That is a painful question for a lot of people listening. For many, the answer is the place would burn down in 48 hours.
It is. But if the answer is no, you don't earn a business. You own a high-stress job. The symptom of a failure in this quadrant is chaos.
Chaos.
If every new client feels like a stress test on the system, if you are reinventing the wheel every time you onboard someone, you are operationally capped. You cannot grow because the machine breaks every time you try to speed it up.
And the source drops a huge fact here. Businesses with documented systems scale significantly faster than those operating informally. It's not just about peace of mind. It's about velocity.
It makes complete sense. If you have to explain how to do the task every single time, you are the bottleneck. You are literally preventing your own growth.
Which leads us perfectly into quadrant number 4, leadership and decision architecture. This feels much more personal. We aren't talking about spreadsheets anymore.
It is very personal. This is about the architect. The check here is, are necessary changes being postponed? Are you avoiding pricing decisions? Are you staying busy to avoid being strategic?
Oof. Staying busy to avoid being strategic, that hits home. It feels really productive to clear the inbox, but it's actually just a form of procrastination, isn't it?
It's a defense mechanism.
Okay.
We prefer the tactical noise because it's controllable. We know how to answer an email. Strategy is scary because it involves real risk.
And what's the symptom here?
The symptom is if income feels capped. If you just can't seem to break through a certain number. Say you hit 20K a month and slide back over and over. The leader is likely the constraint. You are the lid on the jar.
So to summarize the quadrants, we have revenue structure, messaging clarity, operational systems, and leadership architecture. Now, looking at these, does a failing business usually score a 0 in all 4 categories?
No, and that is the tricky part. You might be crushing it in messaging, everyone knows who you are, and you're a great leader. But your operational systems are a complete mess.
So you get all this business, and then you churn it because you can't deliver.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you have great systems, but your revenue structure is flat because you have no tiered offers. Most businesses usually don't fail in all 4. They leak in 1 or 2, and that is enough to cap growth.
That is actually a really hopeful point. It means you don't have to burn the whole thing down and start over. You just have to find the specific coordinate where the leak is.
Right. It turns a mysterious failure into a fixable project. It takes all the mystique out of it.
But this raises the obvious question, doesn't it? If these problems are structural and they are right there out in the open, why don't smart founders fix them immediately?
It's a great question.
Like, if my car has a flat tire, I see it and I fix it. Why can't we see the flat tire in our own business?
This is where we get into the psychology of the blind spot. And the source is very empathetic here. It's not because founders are lazy or weak. It's because of deep psychological barriers like confirmation bias and emotional attachment.
We see what we want to see.
We do. And we protect what we build. If you built the website yourself 3 years ago, you are emotionally attached to it. Even if the data says it's converting terribly, you will defend it because it's yours.
It's hard to kill your darlings. The survival mode aspect mentioned in the text is really interesting too. It suggests that being stressed keeps us tactical instead of strategic.
Absolutely. When you are in survival mode, your brain restricts your field of vision. You literally cannot look at next year. Your brain won't let you.
So you just keep doing the things that keep the lights on today.
Answering the emails, doing the low-level work, but those are the very things preventing you from building something bigger.
The source has this great line, familiar things don't trigger urgency.
That is the key to the whole concept. If you walk past a pile of papers on your desk every day for 6 months, eventually you don't even see the pile of papers. It just becomes part of the desk.
The inefficiency becomes invisible.
Exactly. The source says founders unintentionally protect what's holding them back. It's human nature.
But we can't stay there. We have to break out of it. So how do we solve this? The source talks about strategic diagnostics.
Right. Moving from tactical noise, random marketing, working harder to strategic growth. And we need to distinguish this from just thinking about your business in the shower.
Because objectivity requires distance. The quote from the material I love is, "You cannot see the picture when you are inside the frame."
That is exactly why a diagnostic is different. It doesn't just motivate, it clarifies. It identifies those leverage gaps and operational inefficiencies without emotion. It's looking at the gauges, not looking at the road.
So for the listener right now, who is maybe nodding along thinking, okay, I definitely have a leak in quadrant 3, or my messaging is confusing, so what here? What should they do?
Stop guessing. Guessing is not a strategy. The source puts it bluntly. A 15-minute diagnostic, even just a self-audit, using these 4 quadrants can be worth more than a quarter of trial and error.
Because trial and error is expensive.
It costs time, money, and morale. The key maxim to remember here is structure determines ceiling. If your business is structured for its current income, it will keep producing that income until the structure changes.
That is so liberating. The plateau isn't a personal failure. Change the structure, change the result.
Exactly. It's just a machine that needs tuning.
So let's bring this home. We've talked about how blind spots don't explode, they compound. They show up as burnout, pricing hesitation, and stalled scalability. And we looked at the 4 quadrants: revenue, messaging, operations, and leadership.
And we saw that small tweaks can lead to massive revenue changes without just working harder.
I want to encourage everyone listening to step back and look at your business through the lens of those 4 quadrants. And I want to leave you with a final provocative thought derived from the source.
It's a good one.
We talked about the 2-week test earlier, but let's push it further. You are likely defending the very thing that is capping your growth right now. So if you had to leave your business for 2 weeks starting tomorrow, no email, no phone calls, totally off the grid, would it grow or would it pause?
That's the ultimate diagnostic question.
Not would it survive, would it grow? If the answer is it would pause or it would collapse, then that answer tells you exactly where your blind spot is.
He's probably looking right back at you in the mirror.
And that is uncomfortable, but it is the first step to fixing it. Objectivity is your superpower here. Take a step back and find the leak. Thanks for jumping into this deep dive with us today.
Always a pleasure.
We will catch you on the next one.